Hold up your hand if you want $1 million fine. No? Well then, perhaps you should let Maximizer help protect you from running afoul of the Canadian anti-spam legislation called CASL, which came into final full force and effect on July 1st, 2017, when all the grandfathering provisions expired. The U.S. equivalent is called CAN-SPAM and operates a bit differently, but you may still find value in using Maximizer's built-in compliance functionality. In a nutshell, CASL requires you to have permission from email recipients to send them commercial electronic messages, including emails. In this video, we will show you how to set up Maximizer's protection in the admin module, and then how to deploy it in the address book, or the contact list as it is called in the financial services version of Maximizer. To begin, go to Administration and Administrator, System Fields, and click on the plus next to Address Book or Contact List. Now expand Email Types. Click on Add New Value and add as many email types as you want. At the least, you will want to create Marketing and Service Announcement. As you create each one, under Category, you will have to select whether permission is or is not required for that type of email. For service announcements, of course, it's not required, but it is required for marketing or commercial emails. You also have the chance to select a default email type for your outgoing messages. If you select marketing emails as a default, you avoid the possibility of sending out a marketing email as a service announcement. Just a thought. Once you create these email types, the CASL oversight is in effect for your database. You can also click on Email Opt-in Comments if you like. These comments are for informational purposes only. They do not affect the action of the program. That is, Maximizer does not test against these comments for permission to send out marketing-based emails. There are 3 obvious comments that could be tracked: implied consent, full consent, or consent withdrawn. Here's how these comments reflect the essence of CASL. Implied consent is available for up to 6 months after someone makes an inquiry of you, for up to 2 years after a purchase from you, or indefinitely for a person who publicly makes available their electronic address or who discloses it to you, as long as the individual commercial message you send relates to that person's job, duties, or functions, and that person did not indicate somewhere that they don't want to receive unsolicited messages. Full or express consent is the gold standard and never expires. It exists if the person has explicitly given you consent to send commercial electronic messages to them. But remember, whether you have implied or express consent, your commercial electronic message has to include an unsubscribe link and contact information, including your mailing address and one of either your phone number, email address, or web address. Let's go back to our Maximizer database, and I'm going to take you over to Preferences and Other Preferences and Email, and go to my auto signature. Here is an example of how I could set up my signature for emails sent from within Maximizer. I'm identified, my address is, and my phone number is, and I have provided a means for somebody to unsubscribe from my emails if they want to. As usual, you would be well advised to check with your lawyer in case there are other considerations that you may need to take into account in respect of CASL. Now you have to go through your address book or contact list and identify the level of permission that has been given by every entry with an email address. You do this by selecting an entry, clicking on Edit, and scrolling down to their email address. Now click on the plus just to the right of their address, and you will see the marketing or other related emails identified here that require permission to be sent. Once you put a check mark in marketing email, for example, you have available an opt-in date field, expiry date, and a comment field as well. If you leave the opt-in field blank and the expiry field blank, Maximizer will assume you have full consent to send to this entry. If you only have a 6-month or 2-year implied consent window, enter an expiry date for when that permission expires. Thereafter, when you send an email that you identify as a marketing email, Maximizer will check the recipient against the expiry date field and will not send to them if that date has transpired. You can also put in an opt-in date or select a comment, but neither of those fields triggers the functioning of the test for compliance. This should be done for every email address you have. I know this sounds like a lot of busy work, but remember, you are simply letting Maximizer help protect you from accidentally sending a marketing-based email to someone who does not want to receive one. We'll click Save and go back to our address book or contact list. When you are sending emails to people one at a time, it is unlikely that you will overlook whether or not the recipient has given you permission. And when you hover on their email address, you can see whether or not that permission exists. But when you are sending a group email to a bunch of entries, you might forget to check, but Maximizer can still have you covered. When you click on an email address and thereby open the dialog box to write an email, you will notice a selectable field just to the right above the box in which you will compose your email. It will have whatever type of email you decided would be your default email, but you can change your selection here if you want to. For best practices, we recommend that Maximizer users have email opt-in type as a column heading in their most frequently used column setups so that they can see at a glance whether the entry or entries with whom they are planning to communicate have consented to receive whatever type of email you are going to send. But remember, the purpose of this functionality is to let Maximizer help take care of you and protect you from holding up that hand for a fine. Bye for now.